In example 2, we're going to graph functions using the transformations that we did above. So what we want to do is we want to graph g of x equal to 1/3 to the x minus 1. And we can do this pretty quickly without a graphing calculator or without making a table of values. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the graph of g of x equals 1/3 to the x. So just the basic function before we move it up, down, left, or right. Then if we take a look at this graph, this minus 1 that we have tells us that the graph is going to be moved down. So this original graph, the 1/3 to the x, is going to be moved down 1. So what we can think about, we have our asymptote originally right here. And if that asymptote gets moved down 1, then we know that we're going to have an asymptote at y equals -1. So let's go ahead and put that in here. And then we're going to think about that 1/3 to the x. And all you really need to think about are just 2 points on that graph. You should know that since this number here, your base is 1/3, is less than 1 but bigger than 0, that it's going to be an exponential decay function. So somehow it's going to start up here and it's going to come down. If we take a look at just 2 points, the first point you always want to look at, because it's on every original function, is if I plug 0 in for x, I know I get the point 1. With your fractions, I could use 1, but if I put 1 in, then I'm going to get 1/3, and that's not as easy to graph. But if I think about my fractions, if I use a -1 for x, then I get the reciprocal. So I'm going to use -1, and I know I get 3. So I should be able to find those 2 points pretty easily in the beginning. And again, 2 points really is all you're going to need. But I would do and make sure that they're 2 good points so that you have some whole numbers for your y and not your fractions or your decimals. So then what we're going to look at is we're going to look at that point 0,1, which is right here, and we're just going to move it down 1. So it becomes the point 0, 0. So we have the point right here. Then I can go ahead and look at the point -1, 3, and that's also going to get moved down 1, so it becomes the point -1, 2. So I'm going to put my point here. And knowing what my graph looks like, I should be able to sketch my graph like that. I would like you to do the try this. So again, think about the transformations. Think about what function you were using originally. So just to kind of help you out in the beginning of the try this, if I have this function 5 to the x plus 2 minus 3, your original function that you're going to be looking at is 5 to the x. And then think about how you're moving it and go ahead and plot that graph. If you have any questions, let me know. You can pause it now and unpause it when you're ready to check your answer. If you did the try this, the points I would have used here for my x and my y would have been 0 and 1 and 1 and 5. And then knowing that I'm moving to the left 2 and we're going to move those down 3. So my asymptote would be at y equals -3. And then I have the point -2, -2 by the time I move my points, and -1, +2. And since it's an exponential growth function, it should look like that. If you have questions, please let me know.